All right, so we have our document set up. All right, and we're going to create. First thing we're going to do is create a background color. All right, so we haven't done too much creation in Photoshop, so this is kind of a good point of review also. So I'm going to do, if I want to select everything, what keyboard can I press? Shortcut. Control A will select all. And then how can I fill it with a color? What's that? Fill bucket, right? So if we press and hold the gradient, we can get to the paint bucket. And then you can choose a color. All right, so you can choose your fill color by just clicking on the swatch down here and picking something to go in there. I'm not too worried about what colors you use for this, as long as you do have a background color, and then we're going to have a foreground color to go on it. All right, any questions so far on filling it with a color? How can I deselect so I don't see these dancing lines around there? Justin? Control D. All right, good. So now we want to bring in that picture. So we're all going to get our dabber here. So if you go to the blog and click on source file, it's going to bring us this. And then you can press the download button, or you can right click. I thought we could right click. No. All right, so we're going to just press the download button and save this file. Celebration, whatever, celebrate, blah, blah, blah. All right, did anybody need me to repeat where to find that picture? All right, how do we get it into Photoshop? Good job, Fiorella and Anthony. File, place, embedded. So now we're going to find this picture and we're going to place it.
Why can't I see it?
And let's make it fit like to our guidelines. You could drag it in also. Place embedded is kind of the preferred way. Yes, and that we're going to talk about that, all right? All right, so I want to talk a little bit about smart objects, all right, and the difference between that and a raster object. Does anybody know, is this layer a smart object or a raster object? Somebody other than Justin. Zach? Okay, was that a guess, or how do you know that?
The layer we're on right now is the guy, right?
Yes.
Because that's like a little icon.
Very good, right? Everybody see this little graphic that's in the corner here? All right, that indicates that it is a smart object. Does anybody know what makes it a smart object?
Isn't it kind of like a vector image?
Yes, exactly. And what makes a vector image like kind of special, Justin?
A vector image, you can scale it, and no matter how big or small you make it, it won't lose quality.
Correct. All right. So we'll do a little experiment here, right? Let's move our guy over here. All right. Now, if we do Control T, we can shrink this all the way down, very small, press Enter, and then if we do a Control T again and make it larger, it still has that same quality, right? Now, so that's like, all right, so how do we know that we really test that? Well, let's make a duplicate of this layer. So I can drag it to the new layer icon. I can right-click it and select duplicate, however way you want to do it. And then let's bring this guy over, so we have two of them. And how can we make this a raster image? Justin?
You right-click it, and then it'll say rasterized layer.
Good, all right. So now we see that in our layer icon that we don't have that little graphic there, right? Anybody need me to show you how to do that again?
Wait, do you place it?
Yes, you place it.
How do you select it? Copy layer.
Yeah, just duplicate it. So I want to show you how that rasterized image is different. So now if we do our Control T again on this layer, all right, we make it really small. We press Enter to finalize that. Now do a Control T again and make it larger, and look at that garbage. Right? Very blurry, right? And pixelated. So the question is then, why would we ever want to have something that's not a smart object? Does anybody have any idea? Cooper?
Because you can't like modify smart objects.
Perfect. All right. We cannot, if we want to go in here now and we wanted to modify this image So if I want to use I can select it, but then if I wanted to fill it in, it's grayed out. If I wanted to use the eraser and remove all these lines out here, I cannot because it's a smart object. You can't merge, yeah, all right? So how can we get this guy to have the no background around it and in a different color? What would we do? Well, let's first get rid of this kind of pixelated graphic because that's really not going to be what we want. All right, so now we have this. It's at the right size now. All right, so we're going to rasterize it. And you guys, let's start by removing the background. And here's some review in Photoshop possibly, or maybe you're learning some new tools. I think the magic wand is the quickest way to select this. So I'm going to hold the shift key and I'm going to select all like the parts of the body. All right. And then I'm going to fill that with my color. So I want you guys, you can choose any color you want. I'm going to pick like an orange just for whatever reason. All right, so now we have that color changed. And now how can I get rid of everything around there? Did you rasterize it? So you have to right click on the layer and select rasterize. Then you can modify it. And that's what we're saying is that the advantage of a smart object therefore is that it can be scaled and rescaled without losing quality. The negative aspect of a smart object is you can't modify it.
How do you modify? Like, what do you modify?
So to convert it to a raster image, you just right.
Rasterized it.
Oh, so then you can, do whatever you want with it.
So you like using.
All right, now if you notice there's these little diagonal lines around here. So I'm going to, how could I get rid of those without using the eraser? Based on this selection, Danielle. Select inverse. What does inverse mean? It's like the opposite, right? Right now I have the guy selected. So if I say select inverse, it's like saying I want to select everything else. And then I can press delete, and there I go. All right, but now I probably would want to convert this back into a smart object afterwards. Now that I've done all those changes, I want to go back and make it a smart object so that, and because the other thing too, and actually I'm going to point out one other thing. If I convert to my video timeline, I can only change position of an object as a rasterized graphic. But look at what happens when I convert it to a smart object. Now if I open up this video timeline, it changes to transform. So you could actually animate a change in scale or layer effects, all kinds of stuff that would really kind of be very tedious to animate otherwise. All right, to make this timeline 3 seconds, we're going to just match it up to there. And then I want to take our first pose of our guy here, and we're going to make him half of that time, which would be right about here, 1.5 seconds. All right, so we're setting up our timeline for our durations. All right, so our background is lasting for 3 seconds, and this first pose is going to be 1.5 seconds. All right, then I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to duplicate it and slide it over so that I have matching time.
To get the timeline, you go to window, right?
Correct. Window and then timeline.
Create frame animation.
What, Cooper? It's up in the top there where it's...
Create frame animation, right?
Yeah. All right, so to make this guy move, we're going to use what's called the puppet warp tools. Anybody ever used that before? All right, so watch this because it's kind of different, all right? So I'm going to select my object. Now, what I found out too is the puppet warp tool is in the edit pull down, but right now it's grayed out. What we found is you have to move your scrubber over the portion of the timeline where you want to edit. Now it's active. All right, so keep watching. What it does, the puppet warp, is it creates a mesh of your object. And if you notice, your cursor turns to a pin. So you're basically saying, I don't want this part to move. I don't want this part to move. Yes, I know the head disappears. We're not going to worry about that today. Now if I press the Alt key, it turns to a rotation, and I can really tweak them out here. All right, and then I'm going to press check. So now, basically our animation would be looking like this. Right, which is kind of slow. Maybe we want to make this shorter. All right, let's change that to, let's say, 20 frames per each one.
Where do you find the tool that works?
It's not a warp.
I mean,
It's puppet warp. Actually, I guess it is a warp. Under the edit menu. So let's see how this looks, if this looks better. All right, so I'm going to finish up this last part, and then I'll come around and keep helping you guys, right? Once we get our two poses set up, right, so you can kind of look this way and see how it's changing from one to the other, all I'm going to do, I'm going to save it first as Photoshop, and then to make our GIF, I'm going to say export and save for web, and we'll just leave it on this GIF setting. We're going to save that.
Make sure your point head is right here. At the beginning.
And now I will just go ahead and check that. And there we go, dabbing forever here, kind of, all right?
Yeah.
So when you're posting to Twitter today, all right? And so I'm going to come around and help everybody. But here is what we are going to put there today. I'll leave my post up here. So today we practiced making an animated GIF, talking about how rasterized images and smart objects differ. And here's your little GIF on the bottom there.